Department said, is to get your feedback on this draft plan. We've been working on this plan for 8 to 10 months. We've sought input from many stakeholders in the community, and some have voiced their concern that this plan is not aspirational enough, and I want to reiterate that we see this plan as a tactical plan. We see it as something we can do in the next year to see some improvements. We're not claiming that this plan is going to end homelessness, because I don't believe that to be possible, at least in the next year. But we hope to see some improvements in the next year. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go over some of the 8 action goals here. So the first goal that we have is continue educating the public through the Help COS campaign. How many of you have seen the road signs up that say handouts don't help? Okay, so that is the first thing we did with this campaign, but that is not what the campaign is all about. It's not just panhandling. Although, of course, we do want to encourage people to not give to panhandlers, but to instead donate directly to the service providers doing the hard work day in and day out. And we believe that it's more effective to give directly to the service providers in our community. But what this campaign also is that it's an educational campaign. We aim to educate the public on, if you're in need, via the website, you can find out all of the resources in town that are available to offer you help. But also, we want to educate the public via the campaign, all the ways you can give your time, your money, and your goods, because there is a real capacity issue in our community at our nonprofits. The workers are stretched thin, and they need help. So this also is a call to volunteers to help with this. Okay, the second is we are in the process of adding 370 additional low barrier shelter beds. We know from the point in time count in January of this year that there were 513 people that were unsheltered on that night. On that same night, the only low barrier shelter in town was at capacity. So it's clear that we don't have enough low barrier shelter bed capacity. And I saw this as truly the most important and the lowest hanging fruit. I believe that this is going to save lives this winter. But the other side of that we've spoken about is having adequate shelter bed capacity enables law enforcement to enforce our existing camping ban ordinances. I don't want to get too much into the legality because I'm not an attorney, but I can say that case law nationally has shown that cities that enforce camping bans, when they don't have adequate shelter space, they're getting sued and they're losing. So we don't want to do that. We want to be wise stewards of taxpayer money. So these beds will save lives and will hopefully help get our camps cleaned up, because the police will be able to mark the camps for removal for 24 hours. Next, third goal. So we also are going to implement a homeless outreach court. So I want to speak briefly about why we need this, and I'll talk about the current status quo, what's happening. Just a rhetorical example, I guess. So someone gets ticketed for camping on public property, then inevitably they don't show up for court, then the judge issues a bench warrant. Next time the police find this person, they're arrested, taken to jail, then they're immediately released because it's a non-jailable offense and debtors' prisons are illegal. So basically what that was a very expensive revolving door that didn't connect anyone to services. And we believe that it is the services and the case management, mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment is what's really going to help change lives and get people off of the streets and towards self-sustaining life. So what this court will aim to do is connect people to services. We are still developing the program. I'm working with Judge Kane with the municipal court. He is out right now on medical leave, but he'll be back here in a couple weeks, and we're going to continue working on the program. The first thing that we know that will be coming with this homeless program is we're going to be offering some virtual services at Springs Rescue Mission. So municipal court via video will be able to hold court at the Springs Rescue Mission, because one of the issues we have seen in other communities is that folks don't feel comfortable going to the courthouse. There's a real fear of it, or there's a stigma with it. And so they're just not getting their warrants taken care of. So what Judge Kane has agreed to do is for nuisance type crimes, he'll be doing warrant removal via the video at Springs Rescue Mission and get them a future court date, and also get them connected to a service provider at Springs Rescue Mission initially. But this program we hope will grow to more than that in the future. Number 4, establish a veteran incentive fund. So another example of what's happening in our community, we have veterans that are homeless on our streets right now that have a housing voucher in hand from the VA. They're called a HUD-VASH voucher. And the issue is that those voucher rates are issued by the federal government, and those rates are not keeping up with our market rate rents. So those vouchers often are useless for folks. They have something they can take to a landlord that says, this will pay my rent, and it's not enough. It doesn't, the landlord can make more money by just charging market rate. So the idea that we're trying to use here, and it's been done in other communities, is we'll go to the landlord and say, if you house this veteran, we will write you a check right now to make up the difference between the market rate and what the voucher has on it. And other communities that have done this have seen their housing placement rates go way up. And this is important. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Mayor's Challenge to End Veteran Homelessness, but our mayor has signed on to that. What's it say? 63 communities across 33 states have reached functional zero. That doesn't mean that there's no veterans that are homeless in those cities. Functional zero has a whole list of criteria set by HUD that I won't get into, but I will tell you that the only criteria that our community has not met is that we need to house more veterans per quarter than are newly identified. So we need to have more veterans going into housing than we're finding. And we really think that this incentive fund will get us to functional zero. And that'll be a big deal for our community. We're a military town, and I think it's important for us to reach functional zero first for our homeless veteran community. This will be funded via private funds. We will be going out to the private philanthropic community to build that fund. Okay, number 5, develop a comprehensive affordable housing plan. So, it is my opinion, and many people in the continuum of care's opinion, and many people in government's opinion, that affordable housing is really the elephant in the room when it comes to homelessness in our community. We have to have housing available for people that they can afford. It's not rocket science on that. It's clear that we don't have enough. There was a 2014 housing, not plan, but there was a study done in 2014. 2014 housing needs assessment. We found in 2014 that we were 24,000 units short for affordable housing around there. So I'm assuming it's even more than that now. So the need is clear. We need more affordable housing. But first, the first step in that is we need to develop a plan. We need to identify what the need is in our community and then develop housing goals from there. I think that's really important for us to do that. This will address more of a long-term issue in affordable housing. Now, some people hear affordable housing and they think housing projects. Affordable housing is anything from 100% area median income all the way down to zero. So this is also workforce housing. The people that are working at our stores, they're struggling to find housing in our community. So in order to continue building a vibrant community, we need to ensure that we have housing for everybody working here. Number 6, we are looking into the feasibility of developing a homeless work program. How many of you have heard of the Better Way to Give in Albuquerque as a homeless work program? So I would encourage you to look it up. The mayor of Albuquerque did a TED Talk on this homeless work program. It's been successful. Now, we don't think this is a silver bullet, but we think it's a good thing. We think employment can change lives. We think it can help people find dignity and purpose in life, and I think it can really help get some people off the street. So we are going to be doing a request for applications to area nonprofits to see what they can offer for a homeless work program, and hopefully we can get something like that in our community. I envision it being, for right now, cleaning up trash in our community. That's a real need. Our trail system is being negatively impacted by litter, and we need to get that cleaned up. So we're going to be looking into that as well. Okay. This is a big one. So add neighborhood services staff to aid in cleaning up camps. So this is in the budget request already for 2019. So what's happening right now is the HOT team is tagging camps for removal for 24 hours, and then neighborhood services, previously known as code enforcement, comes in and cleans up those camps. And we're doing it all day, every day. The issue is that we're having trouble keeping up with it. We're having trouble actually getting to the camps in 24 hours. So it's clear that we need more staff with the city to be doing those cleanups. So we're adding 3 staff that will be connected to the HOT team. And that means that when the HOT team tags the camp for 24 hours, the goal is that someone will be there from the city in 24 hours and the camp will be removed. So that's coming in 2019. And the last one, this is the one that I'm excited about all of them, but I'm really excited about this one. And also, to be honest, it's the one that needs the most work in development. I think it's a really good idea. So what we're looking at doing is developing an ambassador, Helps US ambassador program in downtown and in Old Colorado City. And what these ambassadors would do is provide homeless outreach to folks to try to get them connected to services, but also they would act as concierge or customer service ambassadors to make tourists and shoppers in those shopping areas feel more comfortable when they're walking around. So they'd be walking up to people and asking them if they need directions or help finding where they're going. San Antonio, a lot of cities have done this, but San Antonio has this type of program, and they sing the praises of the company they hired. Now that gets into the details of this. We are still looking at whether this will be a volunteer program or paid staff. I will tell you that San Antonio, they contracted with a company called Block by Block that provides these types of services all around the country. I think they're in 50 plus communities around the country. So we're still looking into that, and we're still trying to identify funding for that, but we're getting closer. So we wanted to give most of the time tonight for question and answer, and also providing feedback. And we're going to be taking notes. I think Carly will be taking notes on the feedback that you offer, because it's really important. And after the feedback with the microphone, we're going to ask that you go around to the goals and write notes on sticky notes so we can capture that data as well. And also afterwards, I want to encourage you to go to helpcos.org. You can provide feedback on the plan on the website. And we are reading all of the comments, and I am responding personally to all of the comments left on that website. So thank you.
And there's two other things that we've been doing, and I'll get to you in just a second. We did allocate $500,000 at our last council meeting for these low barrier shelter beds. We decided that was an important emergency funding effort. But we're talking about adding 2 more hot team members for this next year's budget. And we're also talking about much more police presence in downtown and in Old Colorado City. We had a long discussion about it at our budget hearing just yesterday, a couple days ago. And we definitely we know that police presence is really important, and that it's not easy to call the police and expect them to come quickly. But if they're on the street and they're walking, that really makes a difference in people feeling safe. So let's start with some questions. Go ahead.
So one of the questions I'd have is, what can we as citizens and what can you guys do as city council to apply pressure on multi-billion-dollar companies that aren't paying living wages? What can we do to pressure them to start to pay living wages or incentivize them to pay living wages?
Well, I mean, we can just ask. We certainly have a minimum wage bill in Colorado, but there's lots of other, active rules. It's not really council's position to be able to say, we have minimum wage and should go up, because we have to really abide by state rules on that. Any other? Yeah.
Your point number 6, where you talked about the Albuquerque program where they had homeless people work. Then on point number 7 and 8, you talked about contracting out to have people do cleanup and contracting to have people be ambassadors. Why couldn't we take the people that are currently seeking employment that are involved in those areas and have them do those jobs? They could receive an income from that, and that might help them. Yeah, everybody, it's a win-win.
And that's exactly what we're talking about.
Sorry, there was some promotion going on. So you're asking why we can't contract out with the people looking for work to do the cleanup?
Contracting out to pay somebody else to do the cleanup, it seems more logical if the people that don't have jobs, they can get the cleanup done and they can get paid for it.
Right, and with the homeless work program, that is the goal of that. There's a lot of people, for example, at Springs Rescue Mission that are looking for employment, and this is a good entry-level position for somebody to start building their work experience and their resume. It's a good foot in the door, but it's a good idea.
But we're not doing that.
But that's what we're proposing.
Okay.
Yeah, we are.
What is like vendors, like work off fines?
And that's what the homeless court will accomplish. In fact, the homeless court wants to instead of putting people in jail or issuing fines, that they can volunteer and do community service. And hopefully part of that could be cleaning up as well. And one of the other parts about the homeless court is that family reunification is another important component. If we can get people to family members who will be responsible for them, we will help with that. In lieu of fines and punishments or jail time that they can't afford. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, you talked about the $500,000 that you set aside for the low-hanging fruit, which was the beds, which I applaud you for. But if we're gonna be contracting or hiring, how much money have you already set aside in the 2019 budget to, I mean, it's doesn't do any good to talk about this stuff if we don't have dollars already set aside. I just went on the Help Colorado or Help COS, and it asked for donations, but where is our skin in there? What are we putting into it to start it?
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. That's important. So $500,000 that is most likely, we have one more reading to go, going to get appropriated is from the general fund. So that is quite a bit. The city is also every year giving millions of dollars through federal entitlement grants to our area nonprofits. And we're giving, I think, around $1 million of CDBG money for the expansion of the shelter beds of the federal money that we act as a pass-through.
And that's a very good point. That's why when this plan is approved, once we get everybody's feedback, there may be some budget items. I think some of these could even be emergency budget items. We often have excess because of sales tax revenues going up. There's other funding pots. We've talked about looking at our lodging and automobile rental tax and their applications. Processes for 19 is coming up soon, but no, it's a very good point, and we need to walk our talk at the city as well.
Well, do you have a dollar, I mean, that you've raised?
We're getting there. Really, this plan just got finished, so we don't have that yet, but we will, and I promise you it will happen. Yeah.
Hey, I'm very excited to see the plan and everything that the city's doing together. I'm glad you guys are addressing this. One of the things that I know most people do struggle with is what can I do? And it's a hard issue for us. What can I do? And I have one idea that I think is great, is that we know our neighborhoods, we know our neighbors, and if you could provide us with great information on panhandling that we can take as an army door to door and explain to our neighbors why panhandling is not a good idea and how to discourage that, to really list out the facts that most panhandlers are not homeless, and that all these, we just need to find a way that we can get that curtailed. And I know that this army would love some way that you can arm us, that we can get into our neighborhoods and talk to our neighbors about it, you know, face to face, and say, hey, can we talk to you about panhandling today?
I think it's a great idea. I'm more than happy to come to any neighborhood association and talk, but are you asking for like physical like posters to hand out or cards?
Well, you guys have done some studies. I know you've done studies on panhandling. I know that the Rescue Mission has been involved in some of those and actually has shown, I've heard a statistic like 90% of people who panhandle are not homeless. I heard that number. I only know it as rumor. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
So that's why I need to know what the facts are.
Okay,
So that
and
if I tell someone, it's the facts.
Okay, I will definitely get you that. I know that there's someone here from Springs Rescue tonight, and there was some research done, and I think that is public information, so I can get that to you.
And those of you who have businesses, we walked around downtown, tried to hand these out, and very few businesses put them in their windows, but it does help. I know Welling tried the organization Westside Neighbors tried something similar in the past. But if you don't give to them, then they may not hang around to keep asking.
And I just want to say one more thing about people panhandling. I am not here to attack people that are struggling and on the street and in need. The The whole purpose behind this Help COS campaign is to try to encourage people to get into shelter beds and get into services that they need. It comes from a place of love, to be honest. It does not come from a place of trying to make people look bad. I really want them to get help, and I want them to get into housing. That's the goal for this campaign.
Hi, good evening. I am also very excited about this program, and actually that you guys are looking further outside of yourself to adopt other ideas that are working. Personal experiences within my own family, working in the front lines, it's very near and dear to my heart as well, and my family, and we do what we can without being paid no matter what, and I'm sure a lot of people do. You talked about them sincerely getting help. So some of the biggest obstacles, and this may already be in play, is when we do funnel them to the places for the resources and the help, such as the plan that you have in place here, some of the obstacles, some of the people need long-term mental health support and substance abuse recovery. So one of the biggest obstacles that I've seen, that friends have seen, is that Medicaid only covers so much.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if there's a spin-off to where if they do need that mental health a little bit long-term to get them in a successful life journey again. I'm wondering if there's anything in play in conjunction with this.
Sure. I would like to say that we have many capable homeless service providers in our community. Many of them provide mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment. I see somebody here that leads Homeward Pikes Peak, and they provide substance abuse treatment. So we have wonderful service providers in our community doing that type of work. But I do want to herald two successes that are coming. We have two permanent supportive housing projects under development. One is Greenway Flats. It'll be completed in around February of 2019. And that is permanent housing with wraparound services. That's for people that are chronically homeless, the people that have opt-in substance abuse and mental health issues and have been homeless a long time. And they also cost our community the most money. So yeah, you can applaud that. That's really good news. And we have Greenway Flats that will break ground in early 2019. Freedom Springs, thank you. Freedom Springs will house around 55 units for chronically homeless veterans in our community. So we just need more projects like that, and there's more coming. I know of nonprofits, including in this room, that are working on developing more permanent supportive housing in our community.
But mental health is a big gap, and so is substance abuse in the community. I don't know that we can provide it, but I think this is a really important discussion to have. I really do.
Good evening, and I am, like many others, extremely excited about the work that you all are doing. But I do want to stand in the space for the gaps in services and the programs. As we are articulating handouts don't help to address panhandling, I think that there is also this push to nonprofits that don't always provide the services needed. We came into relationship because there are families that we don't provide service for. There is not immediate shelter for families and to keep families whole. There are places for men, there are places for women with children, but they're not places that specifically look at the needs for families and keeping those families together in the midst of homelessness.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I will say that in the short time this draft has been released, that has been the main area of concern with the action plan that's missing, is help for homeless families. We do have programs here in town like Family Promise, where families can get housed at churches around town that rotate. No, but nowhere. Yeah, but even that short-term help, there's not enough. So I would encourage churches in our community to open their doors to families. We need more churches involved with Family Promise. But I agree. Any ideas you have for how to help homeless families more, we're open to that. Thank you.
And one thing, Cindy Aubrey, are you here from United Way? I saw you come in. There she is. But we are working on a fund for bridge funding like Emerald Towers to be able to keep people in their homes. That's another part to all this. What you may not realize is that there's 2,000 children in our school districts in this area who have declared themselves and their parents homeless. So what you're saying, Stephanie, is a very, very real problem.
so glad to hear you say that, because that's the lead into what I'm about to say. Again, I applaud what everybody else says. I appreciate the city of Colorado Springs recognizing we have a dire problem. I work for a national nonprofit, but I'm here as a private citizen. But in my role in that nonprofit, every single week, I have to talk to people who are desperately looking for help because they're being forced out of the rental property that they have been in for 10 years, 20 years. I had a woman 38 years in the same rental being kicked out on the flimsiest of excuses. So the first part of my question is, what are you doing to keep landlords from profiteering by pushing lower income people out in order to put higher income in? The second part of my question is, in the area of affordable housing, is the city of Colorado Springs going to stop the policy or approving permits to tear down affordable housing to build another strip mall or another retail space or another big mansion complex?
Well, you know, there's only so much that we can do legally. I mean, I agree with you. It's not, and that's what we're talking about with the bridge funding, and we were able to do with Emerald Towers. But and by the way, now there's legal aid available for people who are getting evicted, and 90% of the people who are evicted don't have any legal representation. When they do, they often don't get evicted. But what we're trying to do is put together funds to be able to help people bridge that opportunity, or like we did with Emerald Towers, find them replacement housing. But you can only control the market so much. Unfortunately, it's mostly state regulated. There's 21 days if you don't have a lease. We become much more strict with some landlords. But I think, and this is just, I know many of my colleagues on council aren't going to like this, but I think we need to be much more proactive about requiring affordable housing to be built when we're building multifamily units. That a certain percentage of them are required. And I've been called a communist for this, but it's what other cities have done and been successful. But you're bringing up a really good point.
What percent is that?
You know, they can do 5 or 10%. Some cities, like we did it with North Nevada Corridor, we allowed a apartment complex to be higher, even though there was a height restriction if they put some of their units at affordable rates. And so there's other incentives that we can put in place. Joe Gabler's been working really hard on figuring out how to create more affordable housing in neighborhoods. It may require more density, which a lot of neighborhoods don't want. Accessory dwellings is another issue we've been working on. Tiny homes is a third one. The county passed it. We're going to try and mimic it. But there's a lot of opportunities to try to incent the marketplace. The city's not going to be in the affordable housing business. We're not going to build projects like they did in Harlem.
The development of North Nevada, where you have a lot of low-income fly-by motels, weekly, monthly rentals, but at least it provided a home for the low income.
Right.
And also there were trailer parks up there where seniors had been planning their retirement, and it's going to be torn down to make retail. So why is the city allowing? I mean, you're not just allowing it; you're promoting that as a retail.
We're not promoting it. It's the marketplace that's doing it, but we are requiring a lot of opportunities for affordable housing even up there. And so, but yeah, no, we're doing the best we can. But we don't own the land. It's a private property right. And so we can only do so much as a city government. We can't go in and take it and say, keep it affordable. It's not legal for us to do.
What about at the city and state level, expanding legislation that makes it more...
At the state level, that's the key. So you elect people that care about it, and that's really important.
I don't believe in bringing up a problem without a solution. So I've been going down to Snooks Run the past since February, every week giving out trash bags and food. And I tell you, it goes in cycles. This $500 fine, $2,500 fine, that makes absolutely no sense to me. If I can't afford $500, how am I supposed to pay $2,500? Let me give you a little bit easier solution. It's called the garbage bag, a good large one. And when I give this to the homeless people down there, I put food in it. But I will tell you, and I'm going to get on water too, but out of all of it, the one they appreciate the most is the garbage bag. I don't tell them to clean up. I don't tell them to do nothing. I just give them the garbage bag. And as I come back each week, I find areas cleaner and cleaner. They pick up after themselves if you give them the stuff. And I want to thank whoever is down there that puts this big dumpster bin down there.
That's the city.
Thank you. Of course, I will tell you, you need to clean out more now, because like I said, it goes in cycles. When I first started going down there's probably maybe 100 people. It's probably getting close to 500 now. So it goes in cycles, and I'll tell you, when I first went down there was, a tent here and a tent here, and they didn't talk to each other. They didn't know each other's names. They're learning each other's names, and they help clean up after the people that are really destitute and have no willpower whatsoever. They just need the tools to do it. And that works.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, and thank you for doing that. We need more people to get involved with the cleanups. Our city's stormwater division does something called Creek Week, and that's growing. Every time they do it, we're having more and more volunteers getting involved, and we appreciate that. If you are interested in helping with cleanups, you can go to the city's website. We have activities going on year-round where we're cleaning up our community. So.
Hi. Thank you for this plan. I think there's an important component of this plan that's missing, though, and I would respectfully request that it be included in the plan, and that is the contribution of the police to this endeavor. And I think that their activity needs to be highlighted. Maybe it's item number 9. You alluded to the fact that you're going to have more police downtown walking around. I don't know why you can't do that now. I don't know why you have to ask different additional funding for that. I mean, if you go down to Einstein Bagels at 645 at the corner of Kiowa and Tejon, it's descended upon by homeless people. The other morning I was there was a threat to the owner or the manager, both verbal and physical threat, and the police were called and they didn't show up. So the citizens take charge then, and luckily we escorted him out of Einstein Bagels. This happens every day down there. The police need to be downtown walking around. There should be money available in the police budget for that. Also, I want to ask, do you have to have a bed for someone who sleeps on my property overnight in order to have him removed?
No.
Okay, so they sleep on my property every night. Okay, so the police need to know that they're sleeping in illegal places. The police need to know that they're on medial strips in illegal places. They're there every day, the same person. If I know a crime is going to happen, then I would go to that crime and prevent it, okay, from happening. Why is that not taking place? This plan should include a portion of the answers to my questions and others' questions. I'm sure that the police department can contribute to this plan.
No, and that's a separate issue, but it's a really important one. In fact, there is going to be police presence 7 days a week downtown. Right now, they're there at 7 in the morning, shooing people out of and Officer Wynn, if you want to respond, you're welcome to. They're shooing people out of the doors of the businesses. They're there every day from 10 to 2, but we've been short. And so we got up in front with Police Chief Pete Carey just a few days ago in front of all these businesses with the Downtown Partnership, and he is promising to bring many more police officers downtown. No, it's not a part of this, and you're right, we do have the funding for it. We have a police shortage around town. We have response times of 12 minutes to priority 1 calls. So if you think about that, somebody's putting a gun to your head, it's 12 minutes before the police get here. We're accelerating our police academy. We are putting a lot more police into our budget next year. We have the ability now to pay them market rates, so we're not losing so many. It's an issue because it's not just us, it's every police department in the country. Councilmember Murray would comment on that. But we're doing 2 police academies a year instead of 1, and we're hopefully going to get there. We really are. But we have the highest pedestrian and car accident rate in our history. We have gangs with no gang unit. I mean, I can go through the whole list of the issues that we're dealing with in the community, but the police chief has said that his number 1 concern is getting more police officers downtown and in old Colorado City. And his second concern is to lower the traffic accident rate, because that's been a huge, huge issue with us.
This is all over, it's not just down.
It's all over, not just downtown. No, exactly.
And people out there.
No, and there's people out on Platte, there's people out in Academy, it's not just downtown, but downtown businesses are getting the most affected because that's where there's the biggest concentration, and Old Colorado City.
Around the corner.
Yeah.
There's always
Right.
a group of people out there. You know, I don't even think they're homeless.
Thank you for sharing this. It's important. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm incredibly old guy here, and I was here when we had the Great Depression, not in Colorado Springs, but there were a lot of similar things going on with people that didn't have jobs. I would like to just one suggestion. This is an incredibly complex deal that you guys are dealing with, and I appreciate the business people that are involved. I appreciate the legal people that are involved. I appreciate the compassion that is shown here tonight by so many people. I just wonder if you could look into, there was a deal called PWA and WPA, way on back. Great projects were completed. The Boulder Dam, for one thing. I look at Colorado Springs. I go through here, and I'm feeling really bad because we got some things that aren't maintained properly. We have things that in Denver, you know, they do that beautify their city, and we haven't done those things. I think that there should be some way that we can set up an organization. I appreciate your $500,000 deal that you're approaching for the work program, if that's what it was. But I think that there are projects that could be done. You know, I can see them myself. And there are people that are homeless. I see every once in a while one of them that really is working at trying to make something of themselves. Not holding a sign, you know, and I'm sorry, I know that those people feel they're righteous in doing that. But I feel that there are, I saw a guy down on the trails here, I ride bike a lot, who had a bicycle. He had a big trail behind. Now somebody must have motivated him to pick things up, because he had that trailer just stuffed full. And he was pulling out with his bicycle up to one of the big garbage things that the city has put out there. So, anyway, that's the only suggestion I have, and I'm not smart enough
No, I
to
think
get
it's-
into all the other.
Thank you for sharing, and you're speaking my language with the WPA. FDR was, but that's a federal issue on that one. So I think we should, you know, if you're concerned about that, right?
Federal it might be, but let's do whatever we need to do, local, state, federal,
I agree.
however.
Home Builders Association has a great program where they're training hundreds of people that are at risk, that in the trades. You know, there's a real deficit in construction workers in the community. Springs Rescue Mission has 50 people who they hire out. They have a cleaning service. They have a catering service. Catholic Charities has gotten 250 jobs for people, has trained them, done counseling, helped them with job interviews, and that's what we're talking about with the people that are hopefully entry level but can make enough of a wage to maybe get off their feet, to help with cleanups, and it's definitely a good idea.
If there was a program that was established just for work, for homeless people that want to work, you'd have contributors to it. I can't give to people who have a sign because I'm told that's not the thing to do. I've worked on with the rescue mission too. I know that that's hurting, not helping in a lot of cases. So, if there was something published that I could give to that kind of program, you'd find me given to that. I really want to help, but I don't want to hurt. I want to help.
I like that idea. So maybe one thing we can do is, once we get a homeless work program going, we could put donations directly to that program on the Help COS website. That's a great idea.
Hello, how you doing tonight? Actually, I am a homeless person. I've been homeless for many years. I am a case of a chronic homeless person. I'd like to address a couple things. One, the signs that are downtown, if you ever take, and I would like to invite you guys to take one of those signs, put it in your office and sit there for a few minutes, okay? Because those signs are subliminal messages if you actually look at those signs. I understand about panhandling, I'm gonna hit on the other side too, okay? The signs, one, the colorization hand is in black, outs is in red. Black, red, white sign, black, red, white, Indian, white, black. Black's red circle, halfway cut through. Black hand, change going down. You need to sit there and actually go between the two signs and sit there for 5-10 minutes and feel the hatred coming off of them. Yeah, go ahead. But do it with the signs, the actual sign that's there.
Let's talk about the road signs.
The road signs, okay, the road signs, those are people sit up underneath. Now, it's not against the Bible to ask people for money, okay? This is a religious community. I was born here in '64. I was raised in this town. It's not bad to ask for money or for a handout, okay, or for help. I know women have asked for diapers, different things, and I know that other people have asked for money for their whatever else they do. That is a judgment between you and them and a feeling. Hard panhandling, okay? Hard panhandling, and I've had it happen to me. Somebody had asked me for a cigarette, or if I had any change, if I'm walking around in a different way, or whatever the case may be. As soon as I walk away, they start cussing me out and everything else. What I'd invite people to do, actually, is turn around, take your film, take your photographs of these people that are sitting there when you go to walk away, and they start cussing you out. Just turn around, take a snapshot. Anybody else that hears, take a snapshot, send it into the hot team, or somebody like that. This way, you guys see the aggressive panhandlers. That is one way to handle them. When they start getting their pictures taken, they disappear because they're seen, and then they start being seen in that area. You guys start to know them. We start curving them, okay? I'm trying to help, not decay in here. The housing situation, when I have looked for houses, and I am now housed. The thing is some of these places, they said affordable housing, but when you go and you look for the house, in the apartment, it's $1 above the voucher. So they already know the amount that their vouchers are for, so they intentionally raise that $50 or $1 above, so you can't rent there, because you can't qualify because of the lines that they have. These are things that are there that people should actually realize that we all live here, whether we are homeless or not. Tents. I've been starting to see these things inside areas, and I want to address it like California since we're going that way a little bit.
I don't want to cut you off, but there's a lot of other people to talk. And
This,
if people can do it. Okay. We'll go ahead, but
Tents. What you guys can do with that inside, with business district and area and stuff like that. In California, they said tents go down at 7 a.m. in the morning, okay? People need shelter, rain, different things like that. I know it's gonna get hard, there's more influx of people coming in. So, tents, take them down. If they're cleaned up and stuff around the tent, don't disturb them, anything like that, they're gonna be out of there at 7 a.m. in the morning. If they're in there longer than that, by all means, you can move them off the sidewalks then, okay? I mean, that'd be regular. Bathrooms. Here's something for you guys just as well. bathrooms. San Francisco has these self-cleaning porta pots with monitor at them. It would be a good idea to put one Safeway, west side, east side, because if they're self-cleaning porta pots and you have a monitor there to where it flushes out in 20 minutes, that person's got to get out of there, and a monitor, somebody goes in and cleans it up. Okay? This way you have.
And really, I mean, I know you want to hear him, but nobody else is going to get a chance to speak. But let's meet, because I'd like to get the list of what you're talking about, okay?
Right, and we, thank you for your comments, and we share your concerns about, especially about the public restrooms in our town, so I hope we get that route.
And there is a working group that we're working on that very issue. There is no place for people to go to the bathroom. It's become a health hazard. I'm working with the health department and many other people around the stormwater world to try and address that. Scott.
Okay, first off, you said that you've allocated quite a bit of money towards trying to make affordable housing. I'm going to list off 3 particular pieces of property that are large enough to deal with a very serious problem we have. The Gazette, the old St. Francis Hospital. Let's clean your business out. There's no more longer an excuse. It makes money on YouTube. There is a problem with somebody on YouTube that's making money on a property that is abandoned. We shouldn't be letting it sit abandoned. The old power plant building connected to the old St. Francis. It sits there collecting damage as we keep fixing it while YouTube keeps making money on it. We need to start taking an advantage when it comes down to property owner rights. If you're gonna let it sit and rot, you ought to be fined, because you're not creating a desirable location. I sit back and walk by that thing all the time, and more people look at that as a ghost museum than anything else. And it's listed on YouTube as a ghost museum. We're losing money with it sitting there. YouTube's making a lot of money on it. We need to take some of this money and quit making excuses of why we can't renovate these buildings. I could go on and on about buildings. I don't really think we all have the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I've been on the west side now for over 20 years, and I have 2 questions. One is, I appreciate the extra 370 low barrier beds, but what has happened to our high barrier shelter? I feel that people that are trying to maintain sobriety or have a family unit down at the Salvation Army, people need support from each other that are sober. And they have, resources there and social workers, but I'd like to know why the city hasn't invested money in a high barrier shelter to help those in need that have a good support system there. I personally feel that the low barrier shelter seems to be a bit of a Band-Aid. I feel like it's a nightly shelter for folks. Like I said, I live on the west side, and as you said, President Swarman, everybody gets shooed out wherever they go at 7 a.m. And the reason they get shooed out is because at 8:30 in the morning at the Salvation Army and the Springs Rescue Mission, people have to be placed on the street. That's not going to stop folks from camping, from hanging out, from loitering, from going in our backyards. I just feel like, what about the help for the people during the daytime? And what happened to the high barrier shelter that we had?
Okay, so you're speaking about Salvation Army RJ Montgomery Center.
Yes.
So they have agreed to become low barrier because it was clear that that is where the largest need was in our community. Now, I agree with that decision. There are some consequences to that. But they are.
It was a funding issue that they went from high barrier to low barrier. So where was the funding to assist them to maintain their high barrier status?
Okay, so without getting too into the details, because they're not here right now, federal funding is, at least the money that we're using for shelters in our town is for low barrier shelters. So shelters that are running high barrier shelters are starting to lose funding from the federal government. So they did make the change so that they could continue operating. Because again, that is where the largest need is in our community. But I agree with you that we need more family shelter spots in our town. But high barrier shelters, just to reiterate, they sit empty sometimes in the winter, and when we look at bed utilization rates, because we get that data, it's not a good use of taxpayer money to pay for empty beds. We want to make sure that we're investing in shelters that actually are able to bring people in to get connected to services.
I understand that, but I also know that shelter is always full. I know that for a fact. So to me, it seems like this has become a revolving door. Folks get kicked out at 8:30 in the morning, they're becoming kicked out, but they're asked to leave, and then I don't think this is a solution during the daytime.
One of the hopes in all this is that the Springs Rescue Mission is putting together a day center. They have one already, but they're going to expand it, and they're also going to expand their meals. Right now, they can only serve 65 at a time. So Marion House Soup Kitchen is still going to have its purpose of serving people, but more families and people that are in need at the end of the month. I don't know if you know, but at the end of the month, their count goes up to 1,000 because so many people are just, they've spent their paycheck and now they're desperate to try to get to the end of the month. But you're right. There needs to be activities. It's job training. It's ways for people to stay and have a daycare center to do their laundry, to take showers, and all that is a part of this whole picture that we need to really address. You're absolutely right.
I'd just like to say one more thing. So do shake your head no at me if I'm saying something incorrect. But Springs Rescue Mission has a resource center currently, and they're in the middle of phase 2 of their capital campaign to expand the campus, expand the dining facility. They're adding 150 shelter beds, but also what they're going to be doing is expanding that courtyard where people hang out during the day, and they're going to fence off the entire property. Is that correct? And so that'll make that location more of a destination for people to go be during the day because they have all the services. It's what's called a one-stop shop, which is a best practice nationally. People can go there, be there during the day. They don't have to go out onto the streets during the day. They can remain on the campus during the day, right, Stu? And all the services, I think there's over 50 service providers on your campus, right? 45.
When I spoke with homeless folks, they talked about how dangerous it is there at times with people that are under the influence, that there's been harassment, things of that nature. And I think that also prevents some people from going down there. And I'd like to know how our West Siders are going to get down there. Is the city going to help them get downtown? What about our side of town, Mr. Squirman especially?
Yeah, I want to say one thing about that. So they do have security at Springs Rescue Mission, but there are issues that happen. And in regards to people camping on the west side, I've learned my lesson about talking about sheltering on the west side of town, so I won't say that again.
It's a really good point. Transportation's a huge issue. The police department the hot team will take people to shelter, but it's not, it's not their primary job, and they can't be everywhere. And it's an absolute need. I hope somehow we can get the churches and the faith community to use some of their vans to help with this. But we need a lot more people on the ground. We really do.
That's a good idea. We should write that down. So transportation to get people from campus on the west side to the shelters.
I would like to start with an experience I had, by the way, in my own backyard, so please don't use not my backyard line on me. Yesterday, I had the temerity to walk into my yard to find one of the homeless community raiding my garbage cans, throwing the garbage over. I had to confront this person, not knowing whether I was getting into a mere verbal abusive situation or this guy had a knife in his pocket. My neighbors are afraid to walk the streets because they're accosted by homeless people demanding money at about every street corner. They are frightened in their homes. They are afraid to walk on the public byways. My question is, I understand your concern for the condition, but at what point are we going to feel safe in our homes and in our property?
No, and that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish with this and many other things. But I hear you loud and clear. And those of you on the west side are the most heavily impacted. I hear every day from women that are afraid to go out and walk their dogs, from people that are afraid to be in their own backyards. And we need to have more police presence. We need to get the people that want help to get them help, and then we need to figure out how to get to the bad actors like you. You shouldn't have risked getting into a fight. You should have called 911. But having said that, I know it's going to take a little while to get there. But if it's an emergency and somebody's life is being threatened, they'll come on. We'll try and get better with it. That's all I can say.
Everything I've heard tonight talks about the next budget cycle or down the year. I have to walk out of my home. I have to go about my business tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. I have no guarantee that I'm going to do my business in safety or just unmolested. And I want to be safe tomorrow, not next year. Thank you.
Hey gentlemen, this is my first time coming to one of these, and I just appreciate what you're doing. I know there's a lot of details, the devil's in the details, but the big vision has to be laid forth first, and I love what you've done. I just want to speak to the work and the dignity for the homeless. I love that. Having personal friends who've now graduated to mobile homes at least. But to that end, I wanted to say that as you flesh out the details with this vision, it'd be beautiful to see not just trash cleanup, but if and when budget allows, and I think it would be a quite low budget option, is to say let's have some city beautification, that there can be the dignity, the pride taken in your home city that you take part in, being homeless and others, even to public parks, statue, what have you, flower beds, basic things that the homeless can all take part in, that's going to help that dignity when you have that full day and nothing to do during that day. It's going to be beautiful. So thanks.
Thank you, it's a good idea.
I'd like to say too, thank you, because I know it's a hard road you guys are on. And for people interested, there is a budget meeting tomorrow night, correct? At City Hall, what, 5 o'clock? 5:30?
It's 5:30, is it? Yeah, 5:30 to 7. It's our public town hall about the budget. And if any of you want to come and talk about how we should have more immediate funding, it would be really helpful.
Put your money where your mouth is. And since money seems to be the big issue, I'd like to go back to the housing issue, affordable housing, because I know we have more beds, and we're always getting more beds for shelters. Most of the people I've dealt with that are homeless, they don't want to be in a shelter. They want to be in a home. They want to have a place they can go to all the time. My understanding, there was over 600 people currently on the DAT stat. I think that's what they call it. The ISPDAT.
How many people are on the coordinated entry list right now?
Over 600.
Over 600.
Over 600. And we have, what, 55? I heard there were 55 units coming up for vets.
55 for vets,
Vets,
65
and then-
for general population.
So we're talking about 120. So we still have all these other people that are looking for housing. And you used, I believe the term was, you're giving landlords the quote opportunity to provide more affordable housing. Are we giving them any kind of incentives? Because my understanding is, if I came in and I wanted to have a business here in Colorado Springs or bring down my corporation, such as the huge sporting goods store that I heard is going to be opening up on the north end, and restaurants coming left and right, and brew pubs and what have you, do they not get like a 10% incentive discount to bring their business to Colorado Springs? And if that's true, why can't we do that for landlords so that they get an incentive to have more affordable housing?
Okay.
Is that not true? Nobody knows.
No, we haven't, that's a decision that hasn't been made in terms of them coming. They've decided to come. There may be a way that we help and incent them. We may give them a little portion of the sales tax to keep.
There may or we do.
We may, we haven't made that decision yet.
Have we ever done that
But they're bringing 350 jobs and they pay well.
But have we ever done it for other programs?
No, and we're talking about incentives for affordable housing. And, yeah.
So, just to be frank, I am not an expert on affordable housing, but what I do know is that there are some of the incentives we do have for the development of affordable housing are at the state level, like low income tax credits, and those are 4 and 9% tax credits. They are very competitive. They're very hard to get. And I also know there's something coming. We have opportunity zones now in our community that came out of the current administration, and that may be a good opportunity for people to invest in affordable housing projects too.
Affordability, like where does that number come from?
I believe, I'm going to look at Beth in the audience. Is that set by HUD? Affordable?
So HUD sets.
This is Beth Rolstad. She's the chair of the Continuum of Care.
Hi. So the LIHTC housing tax credit program serves up to 65% of area median income, all the way down to zero income individuals, and that is set by federal legislation and HUD.
So those are two of the incentives that we do have.
But there's other incentives we can have, and that's where if you were proactive in reaching out to council, we can waive utility fees. We could donate land. We have a lot of ability to do that as a city. We own lots of land, lots of utility right-of-ways. We have other ways that other fees that we can waive through regional building. And I know I'm speaking for other elected officials here. But we have the ability to do what other communities have done for many years and really be able to build up that inventory. It's a really good point.
So we have that ability, what is the problem?
Political will. You need to reach out to your council and to your county commissioners and the people that have the ability to do this, and let them know how you feel. I've been talking about it for a little while, and there's some of us on council that are. There's other ones that say government shouldn't be giving anybody a special advantage, even if it's for affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. Come tomorrow.
I appreciate your help in housing and employment, especially for veterans. I am a disabled veteran. I've been trying to reside in this city for 6 months, and my problem is a little different. I have money, but no landlord will take it because they require 6 months of employment. Now, homeless people don't have 6 months of employment, but I have money, but they won't take it. So if anybody has a room, an apartment, or a clean, quiet veteran with guaranteed money, I'm looking for a place to live.
You might be in the right place. Maybe there's someone here, but I'd love to speak with you afterwards. There are some programs here.
I'm an 18-year veteran and a landlord.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, and there you go. And if that doesn't work out, you can go to Homes for All Veterans at 17 South Weber, and they do provide that type of assistance.
Already been.
Okay.
I'm really appalled that there's only one homeless person that we're not able to listen to. But my point is, we heard someone earlier talk about these buildings that are abandoned, that we should be utilizing, and we don't. One of those is the St. Francis Hospital, which Sisters of St. Francis sold to Norwood Properties for the price of an SUV. That's $50,000. It's a $22 million property. Are any of you aware of this? The other thing is, we also have a large portion of property that the city already owns that a homeless shelter could be built on with affordable housing created in a situation similar to the ones that they're doing downtown, where they have businesses underneath and condos up above. Now, we could do something like this for affordable housing. We have the property already. There's no need for us to really have to put a lot of money into it because there's a lot of businesses that are upset about this homeless situation. Everybody can contribute. The property is across from Bear Creek Park, which was originally the poor park. We still own it. We still own it. It's paid for property. Yeah, El Paso County people paid for it. But there's no reason why someone like Norwood Properties could not, during the winter of this winter, when we have cold weather, couldn't put those people in that St. Francis Hospital as a short-term situation. Now, I know he's a private investor and it's up to him. But I think that there's more people that should know what's going on in this city that's not really known.
I have a question, maybe it's for you or for Jill, but are there mitigation issues with asbestos in that property? And it's very, very expensive to get the asbestos out.
It's huge, and you know, just so you know, Norwood is who is building Greenway Flats. It's a 65-unit permanent supportive housing for the chronically homeless, and the county offered to help us with the low barrier shelter beds, and they came back with $100,000 less. And Norwood bridged that gap just this last week, and so they really do care. I know that you want to demonize them because they own this property, but they're pretty good players in this community for this purpose.
Not only that, but then they also purchased the Gazette property, the adjacent to Santa Fe property. So
Thank you for sharing, and we should look into that property to see.
But yes, the poor farm is still our property. Why can't something be built there?
It's a good idea.
We have 10 acres of a dog park, or 10 acres for dogs to go to the bathroom on, but we have no bathrooms for animals.
That's very pointless.
Thank you.
Hello. So I am a resident of Colorado Springs, and my dad retired here a couple of years ago from the military. And well, I think we can all agree that we live in paradise. But lately, I'm in Boy Scouts. In fact, I'm here for Boy Scouts. But when I go out hiking in the city, I just don't feel safe. I've been to parks and everything around the city. You know, I ate lunch at Dorchester Park, which was honestly the scariest thing I've ever done. But is there a way to maybe just have a way to appreciate our city while feeling safe?
That's very good, thank you. So, one of the top complaints the city gets is the illegal camps and people not feeling safe in our trail system. So you can feel safe in that there's many, many people in the community that share the same concern that you do, and I share that concern as well. And we're hoping that some of these goals that we have in this action plan will help improve some of those issues. Dorchester Park is something I think our community should talk about. What should be at Dorchester Park? I know there are conversations going on for what could happen at Dorchester Park, but we need to find ways to increase activities and density at Dorchester Park so the community can have it back. I agree with you on that.
And that's where we're hoping this ambassador program can really help. If you go to the Riverwalk in San Antonio, there are these people with the vests who are the ambassadors who are keeping the trails safe. And that's what we want. We want to be more active, proactive. We want volunteers to be out there helping people. We're going to discourage people from camping in the parks, and that will help along the trails. And so we're just going to do our best to. Hopefully, it'll be safer for you in another 6 months or a year or so. Hopefully.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to keep answering questions, definitely, but we do want people, if you want to actually provide comments in written form, you can put them on these Post-it notes and put them directly onto the goal that you have concerns about or you like. We really do want your feedback on those boards, so feel free to get Post-it notes before you leave. Or go to helpcos.org. You can provide feedback there.
Okay, my wife and I live on the Midland Trail between 8th and 14th. We spend a lot of time cleaning that trail up. And it's just, I went down the other day to clean up a site, and there was just so much stuff I would have needed a flatbed cart just to get the stuff out of there. But nobody's coming through with the city and looking at it. I see the park rangers, I call them, come through with a pickup truck. They just drive up and down the trail. They don't stop and pick anything up. Now, my question is, why not?
Okay. Officer would correct me if I'm wrong, but we're doing cleanups all day, every day in our city, including on the Midland Trail. So I would be surprised if there's never been a cleanup in the area you're talking about. If there hasn't been, please report those camps via the code enforcement website or by calling the non-emergency line. I think it's 444-7000. But we are doing cleanups every single day.
You're not cleaning out everything.
And we want to increase those.
We're going to increase it. But reach out to your council, and I'll do my best to get people out there to clean it up.
Okay, another question is, what is the city doing toward setting up a homeless encampment?
Sorry, say that one more time.
What is the city doing to set up a homeless encampment?
Okay, so in doing research on homeless encampments, or some people call them legal encampments, what we found in looking at other communities is that it's not only just as expensive to run a legal encampment safely, the services aren't there. It's actually a better investment to increase shelter beds because it's the same price as having a legal encampment. And all of the services are already available to the people there. So we don't believe that legal encampments are a good idea for our community.
But a lot of these people want to camp out, okay? You're not going to stop them from doing that unless you throw them in jail and leave them there, because this is the way they want to live. Now, Las Cruces, New Mexico has an excellent example of a homeless encampment. It's got the facilities, it's got controlled entry, you know, you name it, they've got it. And yet, City of Colorado Springs sits here making excuses as to why they can't do that. And one thing I've encountered is there's a lot of NIMBYs in this town that they want something done, but they don't want it done in their neighborhood.
Right, I want to give one example. So we were speaking about affordable housing earlier. Broadmoor Bluffs, is that what it's called? It took 2 years to get where it's at right now, to get approval because of all of the appeal processes happening. Can you imagine how long it would take to get a legal encampment approved? Can you imagine how the neighbors around that property would feel if the city allowed a large homeless encampment in their backyard? I'm just saying, even for a nice place like Broadmoor Bluffs, it took 2 years for approval.
And that was for workforce housing. It was called the Ridge, and they sued us. It was a huge issue. Council spent many hours on it. Legal people did too. But the legal encampments, if they could be small and well managed, I'm not opposed to it. The mayor is. He's gone to other cities and homeless conferences, and people have said these are nightmares, that there's sexual assault, that there's a lot of huge problems that go on with them. But if they can be small and well controlled, like I thought what Fred Martin wanted to do at Rocky Top was a very good example. He had 55 campers, and they each had a garbage can right up by their tents. And they went to the city's stormwater division and said, where should we dig our latrine so it doesn't go into the stream? They had camp security. Now the county commissioners told them they couldn't do it, and so they're gone now. But I'm saying, what you're saying might be true, but not these huge encampments. I think that's where you get into problems. But small ones that people can take responsibility for, I'm in favor of.
So obviously, as you can see, there is some different viewpoints even within the city on that. I just don't think it's a good use of taxpayer money. I think it's better, and it gives people dignity when you provide them shelter, and it provides better outcomes when you get them connected to services. So that's where I think we should be investing our money. That's just where I'm at.
I just need help though, because the city won't help everybody with that.
So we have about 10 more minutes. Do people want to take some time and write their notes? I hate to cut people off, and we're here to hear from you personally, but do you want to do that, or do you want to have this go on a little bit longer? Okay, go ahead, yeah.
All right, so I have 5 minutes. Independent. Colorado Springs is an independent local community. I think it's important that we understand that there's not enough cops right now to go around, and we need to support one another in making sure that we're safe. Now, it depends on what lens you're looking from, because your perspective is, well, for instance, I'm a white class citizen. I am born into trust money. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for my family. So we got to look at perspective. So security obviously is a huge fundamental liability. We need attorneys to help us and back us. But thirdly, we had a homeless person describe these signs, and I hadn't really thought about it like that, but when you get to the symbology part of white, black, red, scare, we don't want to have this community where we're putting up signs necessarily labeling ourselves as one and those people as other. We need some kind of joint communication here. So what I'm talking about is, talk about those composting toilets, like dirt up would be my next phrase. So take a spiral. From the center of it, we have the goal of providing people homes, providing income, helping a person get an ID for crying out loud. But start from the fact that we have incentive. We have restaurants that maybe we could give incentive to assist us. So say somebody comes into our town and for some reason they're just broken down and they're homeless. They can go into a church or a sanctity and say,
and they do.
Wait,
I don't want to cut you off, but there's so many other people waiting, and
I just have one more point.
One more point, go ahead.
So, what was that restaurant downtown that was Steve? Thank you. I'm talking about Power to the people. I mean, give us a chance to grow together as a community, strengthen what is a weakness right now, strengthen it into, we're gonna grow food. Colorado Springs is known, Colorado, for sunshine. We have, and thanks to the lady in pink, we have facilities. We have open Safeways that just shut down and then have
You know,
been
I'm happy
standing
to,
there
I'm
for
happy
2
to
years.
talk to you offline
But
because there's a lot going on that you don't know about. All right, everybody, I'm gonna call this a meeting and see if people wanna write their comments on the board there, and I apologize for the people that couldn't talk.
And we're gonna walk around and feel free to ask any questions in person as well. We just want to respect the time tonight.
We appreciate your comments, and if you've signed up on our sheets, we would like to keep in touch with you.
It's nice chatting. You gonna write a note? It's all good.